Arriving human war vessel. Incoming signal detected. Unknown vessel approaching. Weapon systems online. If an alien civilization were monitoring the cosmos, what would they think upon detecting a human warship breaching the boundaries of their star system? Would they interpret our arrival as a threat, a warning, or a desperate call for diplomacy before battle erupts? For centuries, humanity has viewed war as a constant companion, an inescapable part of our history and technological evolution. Our greatest advancements, from nuclear energy to space exploration, have often been driven by military necessity. But what happens when those war-driven advancements extend beyond Earth? When our warships, built for defense or conquest, set sail into the vast unknown? Would we be seen as explorers or invaders? The idea of a human war vessel arriving at an alien world is more than just science fiction. It's a scenario rooted in history, military strategy, and the psychology of interstellar encounters. In this video, we explore how human warships would be perceived by an extraterrestrial civilization, what kind of military technology we might deploy in deep space, and whether our past conflicts could dictate our future interactions with intelligent life. The history of war-driven exploration. To understand how alien civilizations might interpret human war vessels, we must first examine how war and exploration have been intertwined throughout history. The Age of Sail, for instance, saw European powers launching mighty warships across the seas, not only for battle, but also for exploration. The Spanish galleons, British frigates, and Dutch East India Company fleets were all armed to the teeth, combining trade, expansion, and warfare into one. To those they encountered, these ships represented either salvation or destruction. The arrival of a war vessel in an uncontacted region often meant one of two things: diplomacy backed by firepower, or conquest. Fast forward to the 20th and 21st centuries, and this pattern remains. The Cold War's space race, while framed as a peaceful scientific endeavor, was heavily influenced by military interests. The same rockets that sent astronauts to the moon were based on intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, technology. Even today, space programs are deeply entwined with defense budgets, and countries like the US, Russia, and China continue developing space-capable military assets, including anti-satellite weapons and space-based surveillance systems. If an alien civilization were observing Earth's technological evolution, they would likely see a pattern. Humanity does not separate military ambition from exploration. If we extend that pattern into space, the first vessels to reach another world might not be peaceful science ships, but armed, heavily shielded warcraft, built to survive the unknown. What would a human warship in space look like? The design of a human war vessel in space would be vastly different from traditional naval warships. Unlike ocean-going vessels, space warships wouldn't need to be aerodynamic. Instead, they would focus on three key areas: firepower, mobility, and survivability. Weapon systems. Space-based warfare would likely rely on a mix of directed energy weapons, kinetic impactors, and electronic warfare. Laser cannons, railguns, and even nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers could be mounted on a human war vessel. Unlike naval combat, where armor plays a key role, space battles would emphasize range and precision. A single well-aimed railgun slug, traveling at hypersonic speeds, could rip through an enemy ship from thousands of kilometers away. Defensive capabilities. Without an atmosphere to absorb incoming attacks, space warships would need powerful shielding. Electromagnetic defenses could help deflect charged particle weapons, while advanced nanomaterials could mitigate the damage from kinetic projectiles. Some theorists suggest that an energy-absorbing hull, capable of dispersing incoming laser attacks, would be essential for survival in deep space combat. Propulsion systems. Unlike naval ships that rely on water resistance for maneuvering, space war vessels would operate in a frictionless vacuum. This means they would need highly efficient propulsion systems. Nuclear thermal propulsion, ion drives, or even antimatter engines could be viable options. These engines wouldn't just provide speed, but also maneuverability, critical for dodging incoming attacks or making sudden tactical repositioning. But beyond their technological capabilities, the mere presence of these war vessels could send an undeniable message to any alien observers. Humanity arrives prepared for conflict. Whether That conflict is defensive or offensive might not matter to an extraterrestrial species unfamiliar with our intentions. How would an alien civilization react? If an advanced extraterrestrial species detected a human war vessel approaching their star system, their response would depend on several key factors: their own history with conflict, their level of technological advancement, and their ability to interpret our motivations. A paranoid civilization, if the alien species had experienced wars of their own, they might immediately assume the worst. A species with a history of interstellar conflicts could interpret the arrival of an armed human ship as an invasion force, prompting them to either preemptively strike or retreat into hiding. Their military response could be overwhelming. If they are more advanced than us, they might eliminate the human vessel before we even have a chance to communicate. A highly advanced, peaceful civilization, on the other hand, a civilization that has long surpassed the need for war, might see our war vessel as primitive, even self-destructive. They may choose to ignore us, treating our aggressive tendencies as the behavior of an underdeveloped species. Alternatively, they could attempt to disable or neutralize our weapons remotely, preventing any potential hostility before it begins. A curious and cautious response. There is also the possibility of an intelligent but cautious civilization taking a wait-and-see approach. They might observe the human warship from a distance, analyzing its behavior before deciding on an appropriate response. If they detect diplomatic transmissions or non-hostile movements, they might be more open to first contact. However, if they detect weapons activation or any sign of aggressive posturing, they could respond with overwhelming force. From an alien perspective, the arrival of a human war vessel could trigger a variety of reactions, each shaped by their own history and psychology. But the key question remains: how much of humanity's warlike nature would be evident just from the design and behavior of our spacecraft? Would our reputation as a species precede us, or would our actions define the first contact moment? The psychological impact of a human war vessel's arrival. The mere arrival of a human war vessel in an alien star system would trigger a chain reaction of psychological and strategic decisions among extraterrestrial civilizations. But the question remains: how would they perceive us? Would they see our warship as an existential threat, a misunderstood visitor, or something entirely different? To understand this, we must explore how civilizations, both human and hypothetical alien societies, respond to unknown entities, particularly those bearing weapons. Throughout history, human encounters with foreign, well-armed forces have led to fear, strategic caution, and, in many cases, outright hostility. If alien intelligence follows similar survival instincts, the sight of an approaching, well-armed human war vessel would likely provoke a strong reaction. The language of war. In space, communication is the first and most critical factor in determining how first contact unfolds. If an alien species is advanced enough to detect and analyze our signals, they will scrutinize every aspect of our war vessel's approach. Speed and trajectory. Is the vessel moving at a controlled, non-threatening pace, or is it on an aggressive, high-speed intercept course? Energy signatures. Is it broadcasting peaceful transmissions, or are its weapon systems fully powered? Formation and fleet size. Is it a lone ship, suggesting exploration or diplomacy, or part of a larger military fleet, indicating a potential invasion force? In human history, military vessels approaching foreign shores often signaled their intent with flags, signal flares, or radio transmissions. If an alien species lacks an understanding of human diplomatic signals, they may instead rely on the universal language of physics and strategy. A warship arriving with powered-down weapons and a stable trajectory might be perceived as neutral. However, if our vessel arrives with erratic movements, fluctuating energy outputs, or aggressive maneuvers, it could be seen as an immediate threat, regardless of our intentions. Comparing first contact to historical encounters. Human history offers multiple precedents for encounters between technologically mismatched civilizations. If an alien species operates on similar psychological principles, they might use our own history as a reference point. The arrival of European ships in the New World. When European explorers arrived in the Americas, their large, heavily armed ships were seen as a mix of awe and terror by indigenous populations. The presence of steel weapons, cannons, and foreign diseases led to devastating consequences, even when initial interactions were peaceful. If an alien civilization sees humanity's war vessel as an echo of these historical encounters. They might assume the worst and act preemptively to defend themselves. Cold War standoffs, the Cuban Missile Crisis demonstrated how even technologically advanced civilizations can come dangerously close to war, based on misinterpretations and distrust. If an alien race has experienced its own version of a Cold War, a period of intense but restrained hostilities, they may react to our arrival with extreme caution, assuming that any sudden movement or miscommunication could lead to disaster. Encounters with isolated tribes on Earth today. When uncontacted tribes are discovered in remote regions, modern governments often restrict access to avoid unintended harm. Some tribes react violently to outsiders, while others remain hidden, avoiding any contact at all. If an alien species follows a similar pattern, they may choose to observe from a distance, refusing direct engagement until they better understand our intentions. Potential alien responses to a human war. Vessel immediate attack. If an alien civilization sees the war vessel as a clear threat, they might act preemptively to eliminate it before it gets too close. Advanced species may have the technology to disable the ship remotely or strike it from a distance before humans even realize they are under attack. Defensive mobilization. Some species might not attack immediately, but instead prepare for war, activating planetary defenses, deploying their own fleet, or issuing a warning to leave their territory. This response would be similar to how nations on Earth react when a foreign warship enters their waters without permission. Observation and analysis. If the aliens are more cautious or technologically superior, they might choose to observe us without immediate confrontation. They could deploy surveillance drones, probe our communication signals, or analyze our ship's construction to determine our capabilities and motives. Diplomatic engagement. If the species values communication, they may attempt to establish contact before taking any hostile actions. They might use mathematical patterns, light signals, or even mimic our own radio transmissions to test our willingness to communicate peacefully. Complete evasion. Some species might simply choose to disappear. If they have advanced cloaking or underground cities, they could make themselves invisible, leaving the war vessel alone in an apparently deserted system. This reaction would reflect how some animals on Earth freeze or camouflage themselves when sensing a predator. The human dilemma. How would we react? The most interesting part of this scenario isn't just how an alien species would react to our war vessel, but how humanity would interpret their response. If we detected strange energy fluctuations or sudden movement from an alien world, would we assume hostility? If they fired a warning shot, would we retaliate or attempt diplomacy? Historically, humanity has struggled with interpreting the intentions of foreign civilizations. Fear, paranoia, and misunderstandings have led to wars that might have been avoidable. In space, with no second chances, a single miscalculation could mean the difference between peaceful contact and interstellar conflict. If the aliens remain silent, do we assume they are preparing an attack? If they retreat, do we pursue them out of curiosity? And if they immediately engage, do we respond with equal force or attempt communication despite the risks? The arrival of a human war vessel in an alien star system is not just about military strategy. It's about psychology, history, and the fundamental nature of intelligence itself. Would we be wise enough to handle first contact without violence? Or is war an inevitable consequence of our expansion into the cosmos? The consequences of first contact with a human war vessel. If history has taught us anything, it is that the first moments of an encounter can define the future of two civilizations. When a human war vessel arrives in an alien star system, the consequences of that initial interaction could range from peaceful cooperation to outright destruction. But what would those consequences actually look like? Would the arrival of an armed human ship set the stage for interstellar diplomacy, or would it lead to the outbreak of the first human-alien war? The three paths of first contact. The fate of first contact would likely follow one of three major paths, each determined by how both humanity and the alien civilization interpret the encounter. Path of peace. If both sides approach the situation with caution and a willingness to communicate, the war vessel could become a symbol of strength rather than aggression. It might be seen as a deterrent against hostility, much like modern naval fleets that enforce peace through the presence of power. This path would require careful negotiation, the ability to translate alien language or symbols, and a demonstration of mutual respect. Path of mistrust. If either side is uncertain about the other's intentions, a prolonged standoff could occur. The alien civilization might shadow the human warship, tracking its movements while remaining defensive. Meanwhile, human leadership would be forced to decide: retreat, hold position, or attempt deeper engagement. This scenario would be similar to Cold War-era conflicts, where neither side attacks but both remain on high alert. Path of war. The worst-case scenario unfolds when one side assumes the other is an existential threat. If the alien civilization misinterprets the human warship's presence as an invasion attempt, or if humanity believes it is under imminent attack, an interstellar war could begin before diplomacy even has a chance. Given the unknown technological capabilities of an advanced alien race, this war could end in a decisive moment or stretch into a prolonged conflict across multiple star systems. What would an interstellar war look like? If humanity were to engage in combat with an alien civilization, it would likely be unlike any war ever fought before. Battles in space follow different rules than those on Earth. There is no terrain for cover, no atmosphere for dogfights, and no easy way to resupply in deep space. Key aspects of an interstellar war might include long-range engagements. Battles would likely occur at extreme distances, with projectiles traveling at near-light speeds and energy weapons striking targets in fractions of a second. There would be no time for traditional battlefield tactics, only pure mathematical precision, artificial intelligence warfare. Given the vast distances and time delays in space communication, AI-driven weapons and defense systems would become crucial. Fleets might operate autonomously, executing battle strategies without human input in real time. Planetary defense systems. If the war reached planetary surfaces, the stakes would be much higher. Alien civilizations might have planetary shields, orbital defense stations, or advanced cloaking mechanisms to hide entire settlements. Attacking or defending a planet would require strategic planning far beyond what humanity has ever faced. Biological and psychological warfare. Beyond conventional weapons, advanced species could use psychological warfare, misinformation, or even biological agents to weaken an enemy before physical combat begins. However, one critical question remains: could humanity even win such a war? If an alien species has mastered interstellar travel, they likely possess technology far beyond our own. A war with them might be as one-sided as an ancient civilization fighting against a modern military. But even if humanity stands no chance in a direct battle, history has proven that intelligent species have a remarkable ability to adapt. Could humans turn an unwinnable war into a desperate fight for survival? The future of humanity. In a universe of conflict, regardless of how first contact unfolds, the arrival of a human war vessel in an alien star system forces us to confront an undeniable truth. Space is not just a vast and empty frontier. It is a potential battleground. If we continue our technological progress with the assumption that war is inevitable, we might build our interstellar fleets with conquest in mind. But if we believe that diplomacy and cooperation are possible, our first encounters could be shaped by more than just military power. The ultimate question is, when we finally set sail among the stars, will we be explorers or invaders? And will the galaxy welcome us as allies, or warn others with a single message: caution, arriving human war vessel? Would humanity be ready for that moment, or would we repeat the mistakes of our past, setting the stage for the greatest war in history? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep space explorations.